If I say the obvious comment, sure. But do you actually state the obvious because there's disinformation and misinformation out there that some people believe that people come outside the country, including people who come seeking asylum, do sometimes get ahead of others. Could I ask you to state
that is disinformation. It's disinformation, and it's unhelpful. It's unfair and it's untrue. I think it is important to provide legislative clarity, and I've long held this view. I've said this many times in relation to the entitlement of a house. There has been circulars in the past, and I very much welcome the fact that Minister Brown is bringing forward legislation in relation to that you do need to have been resident in our country for a certain period of time to access social housing. I'm not talking about emergency accommodation, but with social housing. And I think that's a useful clarity. But I don't believe in dividing on the basis of nationality. There's many people who've lived in this country for many years. We're very glad they do. They might, if you had a heart attack today, be the one performing the surgery on you. And we should never divide on nationality.
Rather than answering why demographic data is structurally classified, the Speaker reframes the entire inquiry as a moral threat to social unity. By immediately invoking a hyper-vivid, universally respected hypothetical, a surgeon saving a patient's life, he psychologically links the request for public data with an act of social division, framing the transparency request itself as inherently harmful to the common good.
Taoiseach, just following up on that question, if indeed it is disinformation, why would you not want to publish the figures? Because would that not categorically end the debate around that in a way that would be very compelling? It'd say, look, here's the data. Clearly, the claims that people who are foreign nationals are getting ahead of other people on the housing list and so on is incorrect because we've got the figures to prove. Or why would you say it's disinformation but not want to release the figures?
Well, let's just unpack that. It is disinformation because let's not ask me to prove a false narrative because I can't prove a false narrative. So can you provide any evidence, or can anybody provide any evidence that people of different nationalities to Irish people are getting a home quicker than an Irish person and not adhering to objective criteria? I'd really welcome that.
When cornered on a direct administrative choice, specifically the choice to withhold public data, the Speaker completely reverses the accountability matrix. Instead of justifying why the state keeps the figures hidden, he challenges the press and the public to produce outside evidence first. By forcing the room to defend the rumour, he successfully shifts himself from the role of an official withholding documents into an investigator demanding proof.
I'm not making the assertion. I'm just asking why would the figures in that way not be released?
But you're all objective, independent journalists who scrutinise information, and presumably none of you have information in your capacities, and I don't in mine, that shows that there is a queue-skipping approach, which is the loaded part of this question, not your question, but the earlier conversation we've had, because I don't have any of that information. So we apply laws in this country. We're a country of laws. I believe the law needs to be clearer.
To safely close down a high-pressure line of questioning regarding statistical transparency, the Speaker deliberately steers the conversation into a complex bureaucratic landscape, repeatedly highlighting upcoming primary legislation and criteria like habitual residency allows the politician to substitute technical jargon for real-world metrics, redirecting public focus away from an absence of data and onto a process of continuous administrative regulation.
I've been very consistent on that because we've had a circular to date that makes it clear that habitual residency matters and should be applied when it comes to social housing. I think that should be underpinned in primary legislation. That's the view of the Minister for Housing as well. I welcome the proposals he's brought forward in relation to that. But nationality is an extraordinarily crude instrument. I mean, there are people in this country who are extraordinarily welcome, and we're very glad they're here, who are of a different nationality. And they may well have an entitlement to access certain state supports. And we may well be very glad that they are. So nationality, what does nationality tell us? When we actively, and there's businesses who will actively, small businesses in my own community and constituency who will actively seek people to come from abroad to help run their business. So I don't see the benefit in nationality as an instrument, but I'm very clear, and I've said it publicly, and I've been criticised for saying it several times, but it's the truth. Habitual residency is a criteria that must be applied when it comes to social housing. And if somebody is here for a number of years and is legally here and is making a fine contribution to society, they of course have an entitlement, as do others, but the objective criteria must always be applied.
Demanding data over declarations. When an executive claim states they cannot prove a false narrative, the interviewer must immediately hold the line on basic auditing principles. To preserve the frame, the journalist needs to cut through the indignation. Minister, publishing statistical breakdowns is not proving a narrative. It is a standard administrative audit. If the narrative is factually incorrect, the raw data will automatically expose it. By withholding the exact numbers, are you not actively allowing the speculation you criticize to continue?